It's good morning, Anne Gately. Welcome to Yellow Shelf. Thank you for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me, Joanna. Very excited and pleased to be here.
Yeah, congratulations. Your book, Sunburnt, came out this year. It's definitely timely at the moment in the Southern Hemisphere with our warmer weather. But as I was just sharing, we have a global audience, and your story that you're about to share is certainly going to resonate with those around the world. So please tell us what we need to know about this memoir, Sunburnt.
So it's called Sunburnt, a memoir of sun, surf, and skin cancer. So essentially, it's my memoir. It's my story about my stage 4 melanoma journey. It goes through my clinical journey. I had immunotherapy. So if you have any interest in immunotherapy and how that affects the body, I go into detail about that. So I guess it's a cautionary tale about skin cancer and sun exposure, but it's more than that. It's a call to arms. We really need to change our culture, especially in Australia. But, it's a cultural dynamic that's the same really around the world. And the reason why Australia is basically world champions at skin cancer and melanoma is because of our location
Hmm.
in the world. So the UV factor here is much stronger. But melanoma, affects people around the world. Rates are rising in the UK. They believe that it may be because, of all when the English people go on holidays, they just, lay out and bake themselves. So it's a reflection on the cultural norms in Australia which impacted my story. And the two major ones for me was beach culture. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a beachside suburb in Sydney, and also sport. I played a lot of sport. And when you're in organised sport, you don't necessarily have the opportunity to protect yourself. So I've done a lot of secondary research in the book as well, which explores where Australia's beach culture came from, how it formed, and the fact that our media helped to drive that culture and continues to reinforce it. You only need to show a photo of a tanned, attractive person in the media and it will influence tanning intentions and behaviours.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to sport, unfortunately, it allows poor sun protection behaviour. Think of all those kids' cricket matches that are still played, in the very middle of a summer day.
Yeah.
And there's statistics that say that only 40% of cricketers in New South Wales, like at the kind of, local level, have access to shade at a game.
Yeah.
So, I believe fundamentally that skin cancer or sun protection is a we problem, not just a me problem. A lot of our public, well, not a lot, but a majority of our public health campaigning is putting the responsibility onto the individual. But there's a lot more I think that we can do as a community. I don't know if you're into music, if you go to a festival, is there any shade? Very rarely.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things like that where duty of care could be improved.
Yeah. And highlighting the we factor, and what inspired you to actually write the book? So you go on this, and I know you shared with me early on, you've just ticked over a milestone as far as your health goes. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yes, yesterday was the 6th anniversary of having what is called in the skin cancer or most cancers, I guess, is no evidence of disease. So melanoma is very aggressive and can keep coming back. So I don't usually use the word cured, but I'm getting out there now. So
Yeah. Well, as you continue on this health journey, I'd love you to reflect what actually inspired you to write a book about it. I guess you highlighted, you really wanted to make it a we problem and share your story and research the history of culture around
yeah,
sunburn. But yeah, had you been an author before? I'd love you to share that piece with us.
yeah, no, and to be honest, I still probably don't consider myself as a writer. Um, my background is in marketing and advertising, and what happened was when after I returned to work, I had this major trigger. A piece of creative came across my desk. I was working on a new ad campaign, and it glorified tanning. And I
Yeah.
went, what the F?
Yeah.
And I thought, I can't approve that. But there is nothing in the advertising guidelines in Australia that stop anyone else from putting a message out like that. So I realised that the career I had been in for 30 years and absolutely loved was kind of part of the problem.
Mm.
So I started going into advertising agencies and telling my story and, you know, pointing out how advertising and our culture in general is fueling the problem. So as a result of doing that, I got such great feedback, and I knew that when I told my story, it affected people, and, you know, they said it would bring about behavioural change. So I thought, well, maybe I need to write a book about this and get that message out there further. So because my actual medical journey was quite short, I went from diagnosis to no active cancer in 97 days, which was kind of miraculous. I thought, I don't know that I'm not quite sure what my story is. That part of the story is not enough. You know, what do I need to do? And long story short, I got access to research because I'm not a uni student or anything, so I can't get access to publications. Someone gave me access. And I did all this secondary research, and I thought, right, here it is. This research is just sitting here, but it never comes to the surface. Like, I haven't seen any of this research working in the advertising or marketing industry about how impactful the things that we do in this space are.
Yep.
So I thought, well, that's part of the story. So, so I'm hoping that, you know, it can educate people and bring about behavioural change. I mean, it's really just, I guess, part of my advocacy, if you like. You know, I don't see myself as an author writing more books. I think that this is a powerful platform for the advocacy work that I intend to do.
Yeah. And look, telling your story, if we're watching and we're curious, how do we connect with you, Anne? I know you have a fabulous website, but how do we connect with the book? How do we connect with you if we're curious?
So annegately.com.au. You can find me on LinkedIn at Anne Gately Author. And as under Anne Gately on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, Anne Gately Author. And you can buy a book from my website. It's also on kind of the other usual suspects like Amazon and that kind of thing. So if you're international, you're probably best off buying through Amazon.
Yep.
And probably just Google my name. It's coming up to summer in Australia, so there's a lot of activity happening at the moment, and, you know, there's a few articles about me.
Yes.
And I might just also plug, there's a new documentary film that's just been released called Conquering Skin Cancer.
Okay.
And that I appear in that film. There's a lot of, if you've got an interest in this topic, there's a lot of amazing scientists, clinicians, and also other survivors in this film, including Hugh Jackman.
Okay.
So it's being released in cinemas next week. So that's also worth having a look at.
I will put those links, all those links you mentioned, in the show notes to make it really easy for any of our listeners or viewers to connect. And obviously,
yeah, I'm really happy to connect with people. You know, often people who've been through melanoma will just reach out for a chat. So if that's your case as well, please get in contact. I'm always happy to, you know, chat to you.
Yeah, awesome, Anne. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your health journey, and the idea that you just want to continue to pay it forward and maybe shift the culture a little around this thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for having me, Joanna.
Pleasure. Thanks, Anne.